Okay, folks, Tropical Update. It is Tuesday, September the 20th. Got an update on Fiona and eyes on the Caribbean as a tropical wave looks to enter, and it's looking more and more likely that it is going to have what it takes to develop. Where do we stand? We've had Alex, Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, Fiona. Fiona, Cat 3 on this Tuesday evening, looking likely to go Cat 4, maybe before midnight tonight. And then Gaston is also formed in the open Atlantic. Gaston will be no threat to anybody. It looks like it will miss the Azores. We'll go over that as well. So what are we looking at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've had 7 named systems so far in a season that has been forecast to be well above normal. NOAA forecasting 14 to 20 storms. Colorado State going for 18. So we got a ways to go to catch up. And now major hurricanes. Normally we have 3, so now we've got 1 major hurricane. And we're in the heart of hurricane season. There's a long way to go still. We may get close to these numbers after all. First, Fiona, looking like a strengthening hurricane. Tight circulation, the eye becoming very compact. It's gone through a couple of eye wall replacement cycles during the last 24 hours. Max winds in Fiona now up to 125 miles an hour. It's moving north-northwest at 8, pulling away from Turks and Caicos after giving those folks a very strong blow. Pressure's down to 951. That has continued to drop. And so we're looking at a Cat 3 hurricane that is sitting in a very sweet spot for more rapid intensification. Look at how symmetrical just in the past couple of hours that storm has become. The eye going from ragged to very well organized now. Winds of 125, so we're just below the threshold from Cat 3 to Cat 4, 129 to 130 would make it a Cat 4 hurricane. And this potential Cat 4 hurricane still has some headlines to make, I think. Not only as it blows by Bermuda, but then Nova Scotia and Newfoundland are going to take a very hard hit this weekend. We'll get to all of that here as we move along. First of all, plenty of warm water. But then the upper level winds are very favorable for more intensification. Why do I say that? So these are the winds, the stream lines, up at 250 millibars, up at about 30,000 feet or so. And what you want to see up here are very light, clockwise flowing winds. You want high pressure way up at the top of the atmosphere. It acts like an exhaust mechanism. Think of these storms as heat engines. The heat comes in off the surface of the ocean, goes up through the storm. Latent heat is released, and then the exhaust is out the top. And what you see here is this broad clockwise rotation encompassing 3/4 of the storm. It's not quite on the west side. There's a little bit of shear here, but just a tiny little bit, not enough to interfere with its intensification. I thought this was interesting, the visible satellite over the past 24 hours. So the sun rises, we get our storm. You can see this morning we had no visible eye on visible satellite, and then as we go on through the day, there's the eye becoming visible. So Cat 3 Fiona, now clearing Turks and Caicos, is going to race and accelerate to the north and eventually northeast as a Cat 4 as it blows by Bermuda. This is going to be in the wee hours of Friday morning. So here we are on Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, we only got about 2.5 days to prepare for potentially some very strong wind over Bermuda. You're going to be on the strong side of a powerful major hurricane that will be moving at a forward speed of about 30 to 35 miles an hour. So add that to the wind speed on the right-hand side of the storm, and you're talking about potential for winds up around 150 miles an hour to the east of the center, and that will be not too far away from Bermuda. After that, the storm races north. It becomes an extratropical low, but it doesn't lose its powerful force. We're still talking about a low pressure area with sustained winds at 100 miles an hour as we head into Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, making landfall across Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. So with a forward speed of about 30 to 35 miles an hour and sustained winds at 100 miles an hour, you got that clockwise rotation. That means on the strong side, you're going to see winds sustained at 130, 135 miles an hour. It's going to be a very hard hit for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland coming into the morning hours and during the day on Saturday. It's not often that you see the GFS and the GFS and the Euro line up so perfectly. So we've got a good handle on where this is going. It's not going to miss Bermuda by much. You'll still get very strong wind, Bermuda, and it remains to be seen. This is a forecast. This could be a little bit further to the right or to the left a little bit closer to Bermuda, and you could take a very hard hit from a Cat 4 hurricane just to your west. Again, that's Friday, and then this is Saturday as the storm becomes extra tropical, but still a huge wind maker. Counterclockwise rotation, so you've got winds wrapping around the center here, and the whole storm moving north at 35. So you add that 35-mile-an-hour forward speed to the winds at 100 miles an hour coming around the east side of that center, and that's why I'm saying you're going to have sustained winds at 130, 135, gusts to 150. It's not out of the question. Storm weakens rapidly as it moves further north going into Sunday. Let's take a look at potential wind speeds. So we go into Bermuda. I mean, you're looking at least, you're forecast to get Cat 1 hurricane winds. That's 74 to 95 miles an hour across Bermuda and St. George. There's the center. If this were to get any closer to you guys, you could get into those Cat 2 and Cat 3 winds. Something we'll watch very, very carefully. Again, that's Friday morning is when those winds begin to really pick up. So Friday morning, during the day on Friday, that's your 0 hour for the storm to race through. And then it races north. And then we're still talking about sustained winds on the strong side, east side of that hurricane. Again, at this point, extratropical, but still a hurricane as far as the winds are concerned, of Category 3, 111 to 129 miles an hour on that strong side of the storm. That's the 100-mile-an-hour wind speed combined with the forward speed. Halifax, Cape Breton, St. Pierre, St. John's, all potentially a very hard hit. This is going into the wee hours of Saturday morning. 3, 4 a.m. is when it makes landfall. Perhaps on the tip of Nova Scotia near Cape Breton. All interests in there need to be more than prepared and do it quickly. Bring your preparations to closure here the next 24, 36 hours so you're ready. And then it quickly weakens, but still strong winds. Corner Brook, you could have Cat 1 hurricane winds just off the coast there as it moves in Sunday morning. Why is it moving in that direction? Trough, it's going to pick it up, pull it to the north. These are the winds at 34,000 feet. But instead of kicking this out into the open Atlantic, this trough is going to become negatively tilted. That's what happens when it coils back on itself. See the wind flow coiling back? So that's going to help to kind of pull it back to the a little bit of a westerly pull to that near Halifax, Nova Scotia. And see how the winds are spreading, upper level difluence. So again, this is the winds up at 34,000 feet. So just take your hand and spread your fingers out and see there's space in between your fingers. So it's creating a vacuum. There's space. When you spread the winds out like that, it helps to create even more lift. So very heavy rain, very heavy wind as well. What have I put here? Heavy wind and rain, gusts to 100 plus. Easy gusts to 100 plus. This is going into the wee hours of Saturday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning. Be prepared, hunker down, and stay put, and let that storm blow through and stay safe. And then it weakens, and then as we mentioned yesterday, this is going to bring significant snows to Greenland. All the moisture coming in from that decaying system. So here are all the players on the map right now. There's Fiona's forecast. Gaston has formed. It's a tropical storm, but again, this one looking to stay rather weak and perhaps missing the Azores entirely, okay? A wave off the African coast is on the back burner. This one's on the front burner. This system has an 80% chance for developing as a tropical wave here north of South America moves into the Caribbean Sea over the next 5 days. So we're talking about a time frame of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week for potential development here. And when we look at the setup here, it's if it can survive the wind shear that the wave is currently under, once it gets into this position, much more favorable conditions out here. Plenty of warm water and the upper level winds do settle down. So there's Fiona moving north, and here's our tropical wave, which again is looking rather ragged, and there's some wind shear shearing this off to the south and west right now. And because of its proximity to land, you know, if this does bump into South America, it could be ripped apart completely. So there's no guarantee that it's going to actually form. That being said, there's a lot going for it forming. First of all, sea surface temperatures, this part of the globe, are well above normal. These are sea surface temperature anomalies. So we are well above normal. Darker reds would be 5+ degrees. You know, it's sitting in that orange area, so we're about 2.5, 3 degrees above normal for this time of the year. So how warm is it out here? it's sitting right now in water temperatures that are 87, 88 degrees, almost 90-degree sea surface temperatures. That is plenty warm. There's just tons of energy waiting to be tapped if a closed low can form and really sink its teeth into all of this energy just waiting to be tapped. So let's look at what the American and the Euro models say about that. There's Fiona, we've got that. This is our potential system here. And the models, both of them do close off low pressure areas as we head into Saturday. And by Sunday, both of them have some sort of tropical entity, either a tropical storm or hurricane, forming in the central western Caribbean Sea. There's Jamaica, here are the Cayman Islands. So Jamaica, Cayman Islands, you're on the wet side of this potentially developing system. So it's possible that going into the second half of the weekend, particularly Sunday and Sunday night, you could see a lot of wind and rain across Jamaica. And moving into the Cayman Islands Sunday night into Monday, as both the models take it into the North and West Caribbean as we head into Monday and Tuesday. Now clearly, if that were to happen, if this scenario does verify, the Gulf of Mexico would be in play. However, this is 7 days out. So the further you go out in time, the more uncertainty you have in this forecast outcome being correct. And here's a perfect example of why we say that. We look at all the spaghetti plots. This is the suite of forecast models that the Hurricane Center is running on this system. And you can see as we head into Monday, Tuesday, there is a spread in the models from Nicaragua to the Turks and Caicos. Okay, that's 1,000 miles right there. It's more than 1,000 miles from Cancun to this particular model here in the open Atlantic. So that's why I say those two models, the GFS and the Euro, okay, they're worth looking at, but after that time frame, it's just too much uncertainty to pinpoint or to lean on any one model. What we're going to have to do is wait and see if this is able to actually close off a low without bumping into Venezuela and falling apart. And if it's able to get a low in the central Caribbean that's beginning to intensify, okay, at that point, then the United States would really have to begin to pay attention to this. Folks across Cuba, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, you should probably be paying attention to this right now. It looks like at least some wind and rain out of this as we head into the weekend, and perhaps stronger. So it's something that we're paying very close attention to. All right, that's where we stand on this Tuesday evening. I read your comments, leave your questions, hit me up on social. Until then, stay weather smart. Halifax, Nova Scotia, Bermuda, bring your preparations to completion as quickly as possible, as it does look like you're going to take a strong blow from a very strong Hurricane Fiona. We'll keep you updated. We'll update you again on Wednesday.